Hello, we are the Group 4 and we will be presenting about the business communication and writing. So what is it? It is any writing communication used in professional settings, including emails, memos, and can be used in report. It is clear and designed to be read quickly with time and practice, and it can become an effective business letter. The examples are business letters, emails, memos, handbooks, business reports, meeting agendas, press release, and newsletters. So why is it necessary? Because it can be effective to learn business communication for organizations, especially in this digital age. It can also help to build teamwork and aids in collaboration and can boost productivity. And it also ensures that organizations meet their goals.
I'm Sandoval Giselle from Group 4, and for the vertical communication, it is known that vertical communication is basically a type of information flow between of an organization at various levels of hierarchy. It can also be a process in which information or messages flow downward or upward, starting from superiors, supervisors, leader, or managers to subordinates, employees, or team members at various levels of an organizational structure. Vertical communication compared to horizontal communication consider our organizational structure and does not enable information to be sent in any other way. It can be in an upward or in a downward manner. Instruction, formal reports, business orders, and work reports are just some of the examples of vertical communication. Additionally, this type of communication might be official or casual. So first, the downward flow. A messenger is being delivered downward in this type of vertical communication, starting from higher to lower levels. Directives, instruction, direction, or objectives are just examples of information that can be delivered. According to research, top managers should interact directly with their immediate supervisors, and their immediate supervisors should then communicate with their workers. Moreover, there are 5 main purposes of downward communication. First, to fulfill the goals and strategies. Lower levels get knowledge about desired action when new strategies and objectives are introduced. And then the second, to give direction on how to do the work. Members are informed about the requirements in doing their tasks. And then to provide procedures, defining the rules of an organization in order to provide comments or feedback. Individual and group work is evaluated. And then lastly, to interact with other or encourage employees to learn about and accept the institution's values. So let's proceed for the second one, which is the upward flow. Information is conveyed backward in this style of communication, from lower to higher levels. This type of communication is employed in a variety of settings, including first informing the leader of the issues that the member of group experience, and then second, member of the staff submit ways to enhance the institutions, and then showing reports on the result of members, and lastly, informing the leader of members' problems and complaints. In addition, relying on both downward and upward communication in an institution is an ideal strategy for communication. However, information from lower to higher levels of organization structure frequently fails to flow as when it does in downward communication. This is due to a number of barriers, including the first, the leader is defensive against the act that do not necessarily meet regulation, and then a lack of reaction from the administration to staff members' communication, and then the distinction between the higher and lower levels, and then lastly, there is an excessive amount of time between the member communication and leader action. But there are few approaches and tactics that may be used to improve upward communication efficiency. The first one is the open door policy, wherein a leader should constantly be willing to listen to staff members' ideas and comments. And then the second one is conducting post-interview and attitude questionnaires. And then lastly, you can use tools like suggestion boxes to make judgments based on group opinions. So let's proceed for the advantages of this communication. So the first one is the proper method of transmitting message. It aids in the successful transmission of messages from the top level management to lower level management and vice versa. And then the second one is to provide a chain of a command. Since there is a chain of command in this system, it definitely helps in maintaining discipline. And then the policies of the firm are easily explained. It makes easier from the top managers to communicate and clarify corporate rules to newcomers and interns. And then convenient reports, feedback, and decision making. Vertical communication make it simple to gather information and work support, which consider help senior colleagues and supervisor in making decision. And then resolve concern of misunderstanding, because top level management and supervisor communicate directly and there is no misinterpretation or confusion. And then lastly, there will be no information bypassing. Instead of sharing confidential information with entire organization and at once, the level management make weekly share with the supervisor. On the other hand, for the disadvantages of this communication, first, employees may get too comfortable as a result of vertical communication because they believe their work will be assessed and fixed before it finalized. And then because of the sender tone and body message, there will be a misunderstanding and disputes. And then it's possible for employees at the bottom of hierarchy to feel ignored because there is too much of a barrier between top management and lower level employees. And then lastly, this strategy is time-consuming and can create delays, interrupting production and causing deadlines to be missed. To my example, in the downward communication, it can be seen that it started with the person in a higher position, specifically the CEO, wherein her announcement was delivered first the board directors down to the employees. The email that was sent to the following members of the company has something to do with the new focus of the business, which is to assess and monitor the feedbacks coming from customers. In addition, the employees are also required to pass their reports, opinion, and suggestions for the improvement of their products and services. On the other hand, in upward communication is evident when the employees who are in lower level hierarchy send their feedback reports to update the senior management up to the top level, which of course the CEO. With upward communication, the CEO will be able to assess the effectiveness of their products and service to the customers. Not only that, for they will also be able to identify the strengths, weaknesses, and certain aspects they need to improve. Vertical communication.
Hello, I'm Janal Feldumanog, and I'll be discussing about horizontal or lateral flow of communication. Horizontal communication, sometimes referred to as lateral communication, encompasses workplace communications among people, departments, or teams at the same level in an organization. Example, communication between peers, between managers at the same levels, or between any horizontally equivalent organizational member. When using this method, businesses aim to improve cooperation and problem solving by encouraging the flow of messages from people at the same level. Therefore, when the company grows, horizontal communication provides a feeling of unity with a team that works towards the same goals. Horizontal communication occurs formally in meetings, presentations, and formal electronic communication, and informally in other and more casual exchanges within the office. So here's an example of how horizontal communication between managers. The type of communication allows employees from different departments to work together in a synchronized work environment. Improving horizontal communication is a trend in business today due to the number of advantages this method offers. With horizontal communication, Businesses can coordinate activities and improve problem solving. It decreases misunderstanding between departments working on the same project, thereby increasing efficiency and productivity. It may result in better implementation of top-level decisions because employees on lower levels are permitted to coordinate directly with each other in the implementation of the decisions made at the top. Horizontal communication facilitates teamwork if project requires tasks from different people or departments. It may also increase job satisfaction and motivation by creating more employee empowerment in communication. However, horizontal communication does come with some disadvantages. Management may have greater problem maintaining control as horizontal communication increases. This is in part because management can derive much control and power if it controls the flow of information. Horizontal communication can also create conflict between employees exposed to each other through the communication process. It is also more time-consuming if vertical communication is required to ratify decisions made during horizontal communication or to confirm information received through horizontal communication. Finally, it may create lack of discipline if strict procedural rules of communications are not imposed and followed.
Grapevine communication is defined as communication that occurs in an organization without adhering to a prescribed framework. As a result, grapevine communication can be defined as an informal and unofficial means of communication within an organization. So, for example, considering the lunch meetings you have with your coworkers, during these moments, the conversation is about your work, but it is informal and forms informal or personal bonds between you and your team members. The importance of developing rapport in the workplace cannot be overstated. It leads to better interpersonal relationships, which helps organizations achieve their objectives more efficiently and effectively. Team building and interpersonal relationships are two of the most significant benefits of grapevine communication. You cannot only get on the same page as your employees, but you can also let them get to know you. This is critical for you to know as an employee, but you need to blow off steam now and then.
Good day, everyone. I am Jason Venus Chisumang. So the topic that I will discuss are the basic parts of a business letter. First, we have the heading. The heading, often known as the head address or the letter head. It comprises information about the organization's name and address. It is normally placed towards the top center or top right corner of the page. The heading contains the following information: the name of the company, the address, the phone number, the fax number, and the email address. So here is the example for the heading. Global Investors Incorporated would be the name of the company. 185 Devonshire Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02126 is the address. And then for the telephone number, 617-360-7237. For the fax number, 617-360-7238. And lastly, for the provided email address, the global investors at yahoo.com. So that is the example for the heading. Let's now proceed to the date line. This indicates when the letter was written, not when the letter was released. It is composed of three parts: the date, the month, and the year. Depending on the style, the date appears at the beginning of the left margin or at the end of the right margin. The date allows for future quick referencing and aids in timely action and proper filing. So here are the example of the date formats. Next is inside address. The name and address of the organization or individual to whom the letter is addressed are included in the inside address. It is written underneath the reference time beginning at the left margin. The copy's inside address creates a record that aids in identifying for filing purposes. So here is the example of the inside address. Okay, next is salutation. It refers to greeting the recipient. It is the complimenting greeting that the writer uses to begin his or her letter. It is written beneath the inside address or attention line, allowing some space between them. It begins at the left side margin, but depending on the letter style, it may or may not conclude with a comma. So here are the examples for the salutation. Dear Miss Jones, Dear Mrs. Smith, Dear Mr. Biden, Dear Sir, Dear Madam, to whom it may concern. Those are the examples of salutation. Let's now proceed to the body of the business letter. The body is the portion of the letter containing the message to be addressed. It is normally 3 to 5 paragraphs long, and it is the most vital element of the letter. The first, or the introductory paragraph, introduces the letter and establishes a connection with the reader. The appropriate topic matter is found in the second paragraph. It is the letter's major paragraph. Typically, the third paragraph is an expansion of the second paragraph. The fifth, or the closing paragraph, concludes the letter. It has to be natural and rational as well as definite. Ending with a significant statement, a question, an offer, or a request invites more contact. So here is the example for the body of business letter. Okay, next we have the complimentary close. It is also referred as the subscription. It is the polite way to end a letter. It is written beneath the last paragraph of the body of the letter, either on the left or right side, depending on the letter's type. The subscription should be in the same format as the salutation. So here are the examples. Sincerely, sincerely yours, very truly yours, respectfully yours truly, and cordially. Lastly, we have the signature. This indicates the writer's assent to the subject matter of the letter, and it is the practical need. It is normally handwritten and included the writer's name, status, department, business, and so on. The signature is placed directly beneath the complimentary closing. So here is the example of the signature in a business letter. And that concludes my presentation about the basic parts of a business letter. Let us now hear from the next presenter.
For optionals or miscellaneous part, first we have attention line. So begin each sentence with a column before addressing the reader by name. Use an attention line when writing to management you don't know by name or to a department. For example, attention claims manager. Avoid formal salutation like dear sir or dear madam. Next is subject lines. So the purpose of subject lines in business correspondence is to prepare the reader for what's in the letter or email, to emphasize significance and urgency, and to make it easier to redirect contact. A relevant subject line informs the recipient of the communication's purpose, allowing him to decide whether to read your letter right away or save it for a later date. Examples: the subject line that stands out, do this right now to make money. So next, reference initial. The usage of reference initials is meant to keep track of who wrote, signed, and typed a document. These initials provide a method for businesses to look into concerns with letters they've sent. If there is a misunderstanding within a letter, reader may discover that the person who wrote the letter was not the same as the person who signed it. The writer may have overlooked essential parts that the letter's signer desired in the document. The sender's initial in the capital letters are followed by typist's initial in lowercase letters in the reference initial. A colon is used to divide the two sets of initials, though a slash can instead be used. In reference to initials, no periods are used. If Brian Martin is taking dictation for Mary Lawson, for example, the reference initial will be capital ML, colon, and lowercase bm. For the enclosure notation, the enclosure's notation serves as an important purpose. It notifies recipients that the letter contains other material and what those items were if you include that level of detail. Even if you're sending an email rather than a real letter, including an enclosure notation to cover your email attachment may be handy. Furthermore, if you miss attaching a file and recipient notices, the enclosure comment will inform them that everything was not included. The style for the enclosed notation is generally the same whether you're writing a standard business letter or something a little odd, like a memo. For example, so enclosed notation is damage claim photographic. So next is copy notation. So a copy notation, so let the recipient of the letter know who else is receiving a copy. Put each recipient of a copy on a separate line. So for the example of copy notation, so principals, then comma, then HBUC.
Let us now move on with the letter layouts in making business letters, which include the full block, the modified block, and then the semi-block format or layouts. First things first, I want to discuss with you what is full block format in making business letters. So typically, this format is used in making business letters which is characterized by the fact that every line starts at the left margin. So as a writer of business letter, you have to remember that when using full block format in making business letter, every line starts at the left margin. So none of the line of this type is at the center or on the right margin. And in a full block format, every component of the letter, which include the heading, the address, the salutation, the body, the signature, the identification, and enclosures, is aligned at the left corner. Also, in a full block format in making business letter, the first sentences of the paragraphs are not indented, and fewer keystrokes and other adjustments are required with full block. As a result, we may see this type as one or as the most commonly used format in making business letters. Some writers prefer using this full block format because they see it as a cleaner look. But in some cases, these writers will also choose right margin justification as a personal choice, although it is not required in a full block format. In the next video, I want to see you how to make a business letter in a full block format.
Good day, I am Hilkim Salonga, and today I will be discussing the modified block letters, and I will show you an example on how to format a modified block letters. So the modified block letters use a slightly different format from the full block letters. In the modified block style, the return address, date, complementary closing, and the signature line are slightly to the right of the center of the paper. So the beginning of each paragraph is indented 5 spaces along with the subject line if used. So depending on the length of the letter, paragraphs may be separated by a single or double line space.
And now I will show you how to format a letter in modified block style. So the first thing that I will be going to do is tap the font style and then select Times New Roman, and then tap the font size and then select 12 as your font size. Go to styles and select no spacing, and go to layout and then tap margins and go to margin custom and type 2 inches in the top margins and select OK. For the ruler, tap the 3.5 for the left tab. As for the header, tap the tab key and type your address and date. Tap the key enter and then tap the tab key. Next is tap the enter key and then tap tab key. Once you're done, tap enter key and tap 6 spaces. Next, type the address of the person that you're writing for. Once you're done, tap the enter key and tap 2 spaces. Next, type in the salutation. And again, tap Enter key and tap 2 spaces. And insert the body of the letter. Once you're done, tap the Enter key and tap 2 spaces. And after that, tap the Tab key and type your complementary closing. Tap the Enter key and tap 4 times to provide an adequate room for your signature. And next, tap the Tab key and insert your name. And that's how you create or format a modified block letter. And now we'll proceed to the next presenter.
So next is semi-block. Semi-block is similar to block but has a more informal appearance. All elements are left aligned except for the beginning of each paragraph, which is indented 5 spaces. Paragraphs are separated by a double line space. The main difference between this type of correspondence and others is that the first line of each paragraph is indented. The semi-block format business letter is a little less formal than the block format letter, and slightly more formal than the modified block format letter. It works well in almost all situations and is a good choice if you find yourself on the fence about which format to use.
This is an example of a semi-block letter. As you can see, the first paragraph has an indent, 5 spaces, and then after each paragraph there is a double line spaces. So here you can see a margin 1 to 1.5 inch, and then the indent 5 spaces, and lastly the double line space.
Hi, I am Kishan and Pisampang. Now we'll be discussing the types of letter. So for the first type of letter, it is the letter of request. It is a letter that is written when someone needs information, consent, permission, service, favor, and other matters that needed a proper and polite request. Here is an example of the letter of request. For the next part is the letter of inquiry. It is a short letter that you can write to a foundation to request a grant for your organization. Letters of inquiry are typically only a few pages long and discusses the matter points of a full grant proposal. Inquiries can be sent as a formal business letters outside of your company or as an email. Here is an example of letter of inquiry. Thank you.
How do you write a formal letter of request? To write a letter of request, start by greeting the recipient with "Dear," followed by the person's last name and title, or to whom it may concern. Then, briefly explain who you are and why you're writing in the first paragraph.